Hey everybody, guys, it's good to be back with you again today. We're going through chapter 8 in our book of How to Win the Day. And today's chapter is really pretty interesting, and it's following up on our one from last week about how God doesn't despise small beginnings. And we're talking about how God is going to unfold a plan he has for us in our life little by little. And that's what we're going through today. But the first word of the chapter, or the title of the chapter, is called Kaizen. And the word means this. It means an uncompromising commitment to continuous improvement, which is, exactly like what we talked about last week with the Mamba Mentality, is that being better, today than I was yesterday, right? So it's a continuous commitment to improving our lives. And, we got into this a little bit last week in our discussion during our live meetings about why is this so important? Why are we even going through a book like this? Why is this like a self-motivational type talk, or what is this? Is this scriptural? But what it comes down to is that God wants our very best. And Colossians 3:23 we talked about last week, that whatever you do, okay, whether it's big or small, do it as though serving God and not man. And I guess that's really kind of what it comes down to, is are we giving our best to God? Are we winning the day? And are we doing the best that we can do? Are we always committed to continuous improvement, what this Kaizen word means? But one of the things we have to do throughout this is we can't ever really be satisfied with where we are. I mean, we can sit there for a little bit. We got to keep moving forward. You got to stay hungry. We got to stay humble. There was a book put out by a guy who spoke here at the church. I can't remember his name right now. From Catalyst, and it was Hungry, Humble, and Hustle. Okay, the 3H. I think it was called H3, as a matter of fact. But we set these benchmarks. We have these goals. But we never really arrive, because as soon as we start to get there, we've moved the bar again, as we should. We shouldn't just get to a spot where we're completely content and we just stay there. You'll remember on the Mount of Transfiguration, Peter, James, and John were there, and what's Peter do? He wants to just set up shop right there. This is a great moment. We're all here together, Moses and Jesus and Elijah and all. Let's just set up a little encampment and we'll just live out the rest of our days right here. But Jesus isn't about that. He said, no, we got to keep moving forward. We got other work to do. There's this expression called little by little, these three little words that are buried in the book of Exodus. And I want to, actually, it's in the book of Genesis. And it says this, Genesis 23:29. Here's the slide. It says, "But I will not drive them out in a single year." Now, this is God talking about getting into the promised land with the Israelites. He says, "Because the land would become desolate and wild animals too numerous for you. Little by little I will drive them out before you until you have increased enough to take possession of the land." Okay, so God knows. He knew that giving them everything all at once was not the right plan. Now, we want God to do that for us too. We want God to just go ahead and bless us with everything. But he's going to unfold his blessing. He's going to unfold his plan for us a little at a time, and bite-sized pieces that he knows that we can handle. He says he's not going to drive them out in a single year. He's not going to get you to where you want to be in a single year. It's a lifetime. Okay, we can get to a goal, but then God's got another plan for us. See, God's going to deliver us little by little. He's going to promote us little by little. He's going to grow us into the kind of man he wants us to be a little at a time. So you see, God has reasons that are beyond our reasons. We don't understand that. It's hard for us to accept, but we need to accept it in faith. Isaiah 55:8-9 says this, another slide. It says, my thoughts are not your thoughts. Neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. You see, our plans and God's plans don't always jive, because we want things to happen much faster. God's ready to do things in his way, it says right here, at his pace, one little bitty step at a time. Here's another slide I want you to look at. This is by Robert Louis Stevenson. He says, "Don't judge each day by the harvest you reap, but by the seeds that you plant." Okay, so things take time. You're not always going to have this huge harvest of abundance of blessings in your life. God's he's got to plant it, and it's going to take time. You got to water it and all those kind of things. And then in the end, you're going to be blessed. Margaret Thatcher said this. This is on the slide. I'm going to read it anyway. It says, look at a day when you are supremely satisfied at the end. It's not a day when you lounge around doing nothing. It's a day when you've had everything to do and you got it done. Okay, those are great days. Those are the good days. They may not feel like it when you're in the middle, but you're super satisfied at the end. Think back to when a lot of you went home for COVID. You know, your offices closed down and you were stuck at home all day, every day. How did the weekends feel to you during that time? They felt just like every other day, right? So you didn't really enjoy the weekends, at least I didn't, because they all felt like just all the other days I'd had leading up to it. We enjoy things more when we've put in the hard work and we reap that harvest at the end after we've planted the seeds. So when was the last time that you were really uncomfortable? And the last time you were probably uncomfortable was probably a real growing experience. If something is too easy, we get bored with it. If it's too hard, we're going to quit. So we need to find that sweet spot where things are manageable. And that's the word I want to give you as you start setting goals and as you start trying to improve your life, is take on things that are manageable. You don't want to get discouraged by tackling something too big, and don't get bored by doing something that's too small. You know, you should be looking for service opportunities, missions trips, outreach, chances to share your faith, things that are going to put you in a little bit more of an uncomfortable position. And those are opportunities when you're going to grow, when things are a little hard and they're a little awkward. James 1:2-4 says this, another slide. It says, consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete and lacking in nothing. If you're like me, and if you have kids, you want to make things as easy as you can for your kids. On one hand, but then on the other hand, we look around at these other moms and dads on the soccer fields and on the basketball gyms and football fields and stuff, and they're like, they don't even call them helicopter parents anymore. They call them bulldozer parents, because they are flattening and smoothing the way for their kids so that their kids don't face any difficulties in life. And we're not doing our kids any favors in that. I knew a kid the other day who didn't make a basketball team, and his mom went to the school and complained. The next day, the kid was on the team. Okay, what did that kid learn? Well, mom and dad are always going to be there to bail me out in a situation. I don't know what the story was, but that was a true story. So how are kids going to grow if we don't let them fail? How are we going to grow if we don't fail once in a while, if we don't take some risks? Their emotional muscles are going to atrophy if they don't go through some ups and downs in life. If everything's super positive and happy and there's no challenges because mom and dad came in and made everything super easy for them, okay, they're not going to grow. There was an article published in 2013 about the Biosphere 2 project, which took place right outside Tucson, which isn't that far from where we are right now. And in that biosphere research, you know, they're growing plants and trees and trying to figure out cure for diseases and all that stuff in a real controlled environmental like dome. You know, that's why it's called a biosphere. And what they found was that the trees that were inside the biosphere grew very quickly. They grew faster than outside the biosphere. They shot up quickly, but what they realized is, right as they were about to mature and hit their full potential, they all fell over. They all started dying, and they couldn't figure it out. They're looking at the root systems. They're looking at you know, were there any diseases in the wood or whatever? And what they found is that there's this thing inside wood that's called stress wood. And because there was no wind blowing, the stress wood didn't develop. And because there wasn't any stress wood to help maintain stability, these things were dying. And it's such a great word picture for us that we need to have stress. It's not something that we look forward to. It's not something that we pray for. At least I don't. But it's going to happen. Difficulties are going to happen. My car broke down the other day. You know, those things happen. My phone died at the same time that my car broke down, so I didn't have a way of calling AAA. You know, that's just life. And at the same time, my wife was coming back from an out-of-town trip, and she got stuck in a traffic jam that was 8 miles long. You know, it was just one of those days when everything kind of bad that could happen. I couldn't get in touch with her. She couldn't get in touch with me. I couldn't get in touch with AAA. It was all these kind of things happen. But that's life, you know, and it stresses you. But at the end, you become a better person for it. You know, there's another little study they've done about butterflies that are in cocoons. And if you open up the cocoon for the butterfly to let him loose, he won't ever fly. He builds his muscles as he's pressing against the stress of the cocoon. And once he gets out, he's free to fly. And you know, so we have to go through these stressful times. And remember this, I love this quote, that the harder the hike, the better the view. Okay? Any of you guys hikers, you know, you go out there and there's mountains all around here. And if you're like me, you're going to quit about 20, 30 minutes into it, enjoy that little view and turn around and come back. But the hardcore guys, the ones that are spending 3 or 4 hours that are going to the top, those are the ones that are taking these spectacular pictures and coming back with these great stories about how awesome it was, you know. So the harder the hike, the better the view. The more difficult it is, the better things are going to be. Which brings me to this too, and I want to get back to the self-discipline side of this as we're trying to reach our goals. We talked about self-discipline a little bit before, but oftentimes we want success without the sacrifice that's going into it. Okay, we want to get good, we want to reach our goals, but we don't necessarily want to put in all the hard work. But at the heart of every success story is a person who is willing to make sacrifices that nobody else is willing to make. Okay, I talked to a guy the other day when my car broke down. I happened to be outside this guy's house and we were talking, and he's training for the Olympics, training to be on the national team as a sprinter. Well, he gets up and goes to the track every morning at a high school nearby, and he's there at 4 o'clock in the morning. Every morning. It's dark, and there's no stadium lights on. He's sprinting in the dark on this football field track, and he said it took about 60 days. He says, I said, how do you do this? You know, what kind of discipline does it take to get up every morning at 4 o'clock? And he's got several children, and you know, he's got to get them off to school and everything. He's got a full-time job. He said, if I don't do it first thing in the morning, it's not going to happen. He said, it took me 60 days. He says, I tell everybody that. He says, 60 days and it's going to lock in this habit. He's making sacrifices. He could be laying in bed like the rest of us. But the best decision that you can make for yourself is a decision against yourself. Okay, the best decision you can make for yourself is a decision against yourself. It's disciplining you to do the right things day in, day out, week in, week out, month, year at a time of things you don't necessarily want to do. But if you pay that price, the payoff is going to be great for all of the sacrifice you did. You're going to look back one day and you're going to say, you know what, it was all worth it. It was hard going through it, but it was all worth it. And whatever it is that you're sacrificing for. But I want to give you one warning, and we're going to close up with just a second, but I want to give you a warning. Don't try to change the whole world. Okay, you're not going to be able to. Try to change the things that are going on in your life, the things that are going on around you. Remember, your goals that you have should be manageable. Okay, not too easy, that you're going to get bored, not so hard that you're going to quit and be discouraged. You've got to take one goal, one game, one workout, 1 mile, 1 day at a time. Okay, little steps. Remember, God said he's going to clear the way for the Israelites little by little. You're not going to knock this out in one day. So in conclusion, I want to give you this verse. It comes from Psalm 119, 105. Check this out. It says, your word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. And this goes back to that whole little by little thing. Do you remember, you know, back in those days, they didn't have flashlights. They didn't have floodlights. When it says, your word is a lamp unto my feet, you guys ever walked carrying like a camping lantern or a kerosene lantern? You don't see what's happening more than 3 or 4 feet in front of you. Okay, and that's the way God has designed this. And that's why this word picture in Psalm 119 is so perfect. You know, your word is a lamp unto my feet and a light to my path. Let's go a little at a time. God doesn't expose it all for you. He doesn't set up your life like runway lights at an airport where you can just cruise right down the middle and everything's super smooth. Okay, it's a lamp on a path. Okay, there's going to be some difficulties, but God's going to show you how to get through it one little step at a time. Little by little, God's going to turn you into the kind of man that you want to be. See you next week, guys.